This week on Rockstar Superhero. Today I present a band from a time seemingly forgotten and typically misrepresented. That time was the mid-1980s. The sound of the era was awash in colorful hues and deep, dark pockets of reverb. The United States hadn't yet experienced true terrorism on our shores, and the high times vibe of the era blinded us to that truth. In short, the world still had hope, even if it was just for the short term. Day of Departure is about to release a new album that takes us, sonically, back to that time when the world was far in front of us and our hopes and dreams still thrived. The new album deals with these ideas, but uncouples with them as well to discuss our potential fate and the hope that we can evolve into something much more beautiful and inspired. This is an album dreams are truly made of. This is a band you must know because once you take the moment to be inspired by their work, you will fall in love and you will know that you are not alone. This is Day of Departure, and this is Rockstar Superhero. Welcome to Day of Departure. Thank you guys so much. I got Michelle and Matt here today, and I am stoked because this is one of those lovely surprises that came up on my radar recently, and I trust the PR firm that sent me this, and the next thing I know, I'm sitting in front of them, so thank you guys for being here today.
Yay.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I'm always hesitant to talk about genres and subgenres because I don't want it to get caught up in the isms of what somebody perceives it to be, or no, I'm sorry, it's post rock, not alternative rock, right? But what's so interesting to me is it hits all the notes of all the things I like. It's atmospheric. It has moments of grandeur and it's heavy at times, but it's also lilting and soft. And I think because it's so primarily built around mood, that it's hugely attractive to me. And you'd think because I tend to interview a lot of heavy bands, right? But I'm a drummer, and that's kind of typically what draws us is, rhythms and, tight and complex things, gent, that sort of thing. But the truth is, this is my favorite type of music. So you guys fit square in the bubble of everything that's badass to me. So again, thank you. And I'm so excited that you're here.
Awesome.
Thanks.
That was a good welcome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So now that I've time to go, we're done.
Yeah, we're done.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. We're good.
Yeah. Okay. So because I don't know that much about you, I did as much sort of research as I could. And we're actually friends with somebody. We're all shared mutual acquaintances with Zinc Hussein from Shaman.
Oh, great.
So he said, say hello. So I'm saying hello now before I forget.
Nice. I just saw him last weekend. Just saw him play.
I love Zinc so much. He's such a great guy, and he's a killer musician. So if anybody's listening who was interested, I did an interview with Shaman last year.
Awesome.
Yes. So anyway, back to Day of Departure. The first thing I want to ask is something I'm sure you've been asked a million times already, but I have to go there, which is why Day of Departure? Why not just Brave continued? Because for the newbies like myself, I look at your lineup and I look at kind of what you've done in the past, and I say, well, this is Brave. So I could be wrong. It could be an ownership thing, but would you mind kind of breaking it down for people? Because Brave is a great band unto itself. So.
Oh, well, thank you. We just finished The Calm the Storm as our last Brave album. And after that, we were kind of looking for like, what's next? What we have hundreds of files and ideas and things shared that we can all kind of collaborate on. And actually Matt said, hey, check out this stuff. It was a whole album of stuff that he had written. And were listening, like, oh, this is really cool. We immediately had tons of ideas and wanted to really get into the songs. And we did think maybe this is Brave, or maybe it's just different enough to be its own thing. And that's kind of where we landed. Ultimately, it's just a little bit of Brave, a little bit of Stellar Death, which is another offshoot of Brave. It's like they had a baby and they kind of came together to have its own thing. So
nice. So this one was born C-section, so it's fully formed.
Right. True.
Way to go with the analogy.
Thank you. But so if I could be, because I'm a songwriter, so let's say we go down this weird road of sort of ownership. Okay, Matt says, "Hey, I've got all these pieces, and they are slightly askew from what we've done in the past, and because of the vibe, and maybe some of that ownership. I don't want to get weird and political on the the songwriting thing, but is it just that in the sense of we want to keep the identities separate because we don't want to disband what Brave is. We just want to make sure people aren't confused with what Brave is, if that makes sense."
Yeah, I don't know that we thought about it that much.
Right, exactly.
We kind of just go with the flow. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we do have like this platform now where we can all kind of develop different projects. Like we formed the Brave Music banner and have projects underneath the banner, and which is really fun because now I'm thinking all sorts of ideas like, oh, we could do this kind of project or this kind of project, and because we all are influenced by so many different bands, it's just fun to be able to diversify a little bit. But we all know too, like I feel like anyway, Brave is our main band, and we can always come back together, and we can always write the next Brave album or play a Brave show. But I think it's super fun to have. It's just limitless possibilities.
And it's like when you hear Brave, you do have a certain expectation as to what you're gonna hear. And I think that even though the members are the same, the album was born out of trying to achieve a distinct sound. So we didn't want to have individuals that like Brave, have so much of a departure from Brave, if you will. We wanted to. And the fact that, it was, an album worth of material. It wasn't like, oh, I've got this one or two songs, integrated into the regular stable of songs. And it's an interesting offshoot. But given that it was a full album worth of material, it sort of borne out that it was, this standalone project.
Yeah. It makes sense. I mean, look, artists are restless. I mean, again, I'm not going to let myself into your situation, but I know that if I'm looking to create something new that doesn't necessarily fit in the mold of what I've done, you have to step outside that. And as long as, again, what's interesting in your guys' case is that it's the band, right? That literally are sort of like, let's just try this other thing so we don't confuse people. And then allows you also to try new, hopefully touring ideas, right? Where you link on to a different set of bands. And at the same time, I think every artist I know who becomes more mature as their songwriting changes, there's also a business acumen that gets developed where you start thinking, okay, so how can I brand this? How can I market this? Why don't we open a marketing arm? Why don't we open a label? Why don't we start picking and choosing talent, taking them out on the road with us, right? And getting a piece because you've been established and you own that idea. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's nice to have the foundation kind of there for you. Like you don't have to reinvent the wheel with a new band. Like you've got the foundation set. Like we have, the website, we've got the CD Baby account, like those kinds of things are set. And then you can just develop from there. And most importantly is that we actually all like each other. And can collaborate well together. So it was sort of like, when we were thinking about the album, it was like, let's all just collaborate and put ourselves in a different sort of focus. And it came out even better than, sort of envisioned.
Yeah,
definitely.
No, that makes sense. I mean, again, I'm probably trying to work too much into it. I'm trying to do one of those, look at me here. I'm so smart. I've got it all figured out. I don't know jack. Clearly.
You're giving us way too much credit. Part of the master plan or something.
You're like, Rob, it's a total accident. Well, okay. So you guys are here to talk about the debut album. which is eponymously titled, right? It's just Day of Departure. It's not like some fancy other, which is already a killer name. So congratulations on the cool name.
Good job, Matt.
Yeah. Okay, so I was wondering, was it originally when you came up with the name, was it originally because you had a song title and you're like, this sounds like? I mean, did you?
No, it was more the whole album concept. So the album, all the lyrics, the entire flow is based off of, departure from our planet to find a new, way to survive, revolving. So it was, just thinking about that overall concept and just arriving at the name to represent that. So hopefully in the future, the next material will align with that as well too, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think it's just absolutely stellar, and not to make a sci-fi reference just there, that was kind of an accident. But what I love about it, and we'll get to it in a bit, but I love the idea that it almost seems, I should say, my interpretation is it comes off being a combination of ideas between kind of what's going on with the planet. There's a sort of pseudo sci-fi theme, but there's also this very spiritual a theme, this feeling of dissonance and loss and struggling to find identity and struggling to find a home, and I think because we're all three artists here, and we're going to be drawn to those sorts of themes because part of the dilemma of being a creative is always looking for people to love what you do. And so we're always searching, right? I mean, I'm like one of the loneliest people I know, and I talk to people all the time, And I don't mean that in the like, look at me, but I mean right. That's the vibe. Right. What we go through. What's your takeaway on that thought?
I mean, I would start just in so the lyrics and all, and the whole concept itself is a catharsis in a way. Just understanding what is happening. And generally, I think we're all pretty happy people, but you have this outlet to sort of channel those things that just sort of get you down and realize what we're enduring. And we're also, me specifically, heavily engaged in sci-fi, comics and movies and all that. So it's
sweet. The
combination of all that, and just sort of writing out the storyline. And Michelle, we work really closely, and she was the one that was sort of the architect of like thinking about the lyrics themselves and how to formulate that the lyrics into the actual songs and sort of the cadence and all that, and which just sort of morphed into what you hear. I don't know, Michelle, if you have anything to add on that one.
It's interesting because this was like a sci-fi theme from the beginning, and to be perfectly honest, that's not my scene. Like I'm not familiar with a lot of the same, like the movies and the comics and the stories. It's just not something I'm familiar with, but I think you can still apply these themes that we sing about to so many different things. Like right now, listening to some of the songs and the Ukrainian crisis, like it's insane to me how much like it could be about that.
Right.
And also like when we were writing and mixing and, listening to mixes on the road, like listening to some of these songs, like on a way to a mass vaccination site, like it was just surreal.
Yeah.
Like some of the things that ended up happening as we were writing the album.
Yeah. It's very Children of Men.
Yeah. Michelle has no idea that movie.
Sounds good.
Matt, now, so before we go down that road, Matt, have you seen that movie?
Yes, it's one of the greatest sci-fi movies of all time.
It's one of the greatest movies of all time. So if I may take us off on a slight tangent, Michelle,
please.
My wife hates sci-fi of all kinds. It doesn't matter if it's muted. It just doesn't matter. The moment there's a star in the shot, she's like out, right? And I mean, like it could be a story about Jesus. She's like sci-fi, and then she doesn't want to see it anymore. But it's this fantastic sort of end of humanity story, with a very spiritual. I mean, it's honestly. I mean, I don't want to call it a Christian a story, but it has sort of almost biblical themes to it. This idea of a savior, and coming from an unexpected source is maybe the best way to put it. I don't want to give anything away for the few of you who haven't seen it, but it is absolutely worth your watch, and it is stunning and revelatory and heartbreaking, and it's beautiful and perfect. And the best part, and I'm going to give this away without giving anything away.
Spoiler alert.
The hero never, ever, ever has a weapon. And there's something that, so you can really become part of the movie because you recognize yourself in that movie. What would you do in these circumstances? You would do what he's doing. You would just try to survive. And it's fascinating. It's a beautiful movie. Beautiful.
I'm gonna start now, making that comparison. That we actually wrote this as a soundtrack to Children of Men. I like that. That's good. It's like Pink Floyd and the Wizard of Oz. It's that whole thing.
But it would work. I bet you could type it up, and I bet you somehow thematically you'd be like, "Oh my God! This was supposed to happen."
Right. That's great.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, I apologize. So
that was great.
I'm gonna have to check it out now.
You are. See, I'm really good at selling things I care about.
So Michelle is married to the drummer Trevor, and he's a big sci-fi. So I'm sure Trevor after this.
But Michelle, that's why your husband says you should watch this. You're like, you're my husband. The answer is no.
That's what? That's why we have more than one TV. That's what I'm gonna say.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I will not be mean to you here, but So being a musician myself, the things I notice are not going to be, quote unquote normal, because I'm a weirdo, right? And I'm listening for stuff that attracts me, but I'm also listening to it from a songwriting and arrangement point of view. And there's something that really caught me off guard about this album and the mix and the production. And specifically, actually, Michelle's voice is the album is heavy on bell tones. Everything from the way the guitars resonate to the sound of the vocals as an instrument versus vocals as a lead singer, right? Versus that out front sound.
Right.
I assume that's pretty intentional, and not just me catching this thing or trying to be right about the album. But was that kind of the approach as a songwriter, Matt? Was that what you were looking to do? Absolutely.
That's great. You picked up on that. I think that as we were going through the mix, we were thinking about it in terms of, or starting out from the regular template that we would with Brave. And when we heard the vocals really out in front, it's like, let's pare back just a little bit, because we wanted to sort of interplay with all the different, guitar parts, the different atmospherics and all that. Not to take anything away, obviously, from Michelle's voice, which is fantastic, but just, the way that, it's kind of corny. The wall of sound, it's
awesome.
It was intended to be more of that overall tapestry of everything coming together, as opposed to your typical sort of rock mix
or pop mix, where that vocal's so front and center. It's not that. You're exactly right, Rob. It's a blend of voice and instruments, and everything is blended together.
Yeah, nice, good. I still have those ears.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
But see, I listened to. So I got to talk about the influences then, because influences are the eye-rolling question. I get it. I'm sorry in advance, but when I heard this record and I listened to the whole thing, I actually listened to it again today because I wanted to be sure, right? But I hear everything from Sugar Ross and Cocteau Twins. I do. In the sound of your voice, Michelle, I hear lots of Cocteau Twins, but early Cocteau Twins. I don't hear the not that they've been around for forever, but you know what I mean. But then I also hear a lot of new tones, right? Bands like Psalm and Shiloh. I don't know if you're familiar with either of them, but if you're not, my goodness, you should be. So Psalm, S-O-M, is one band, which does something very similar to you guys, sound like themselves. Shy, Low is another band, and I don't remember where they're from. I want to say they're from like Baltimore, but there's no vocals in that, but it's all spacey and right. There's this sort of voluptuous nature to the music. And then, bands like Caspian, which Psalm is an offshoot of, so that might help you there. So,
okay.
But so, are you influenced by stuff like that, or do you just happen to write something that happened to sound similar to that kind of vibe?
I would say that,
and I mean that in the best way.
When I was first writing a lot of these songs, it was when I was really getting into, deep into post rock. So, God is an Astronaut, Russian Circles. I had previously, 15, 20 years ago, got into Explosions in the Sky and Mono, and kind of rediscovered them as well too during the last few years. So just thinking about that, even like the style of playing, like the trem picking with the washed out reverb and all that. So trying to take those influences, those ideas, and apply it to sort of like our typical progressive rock stylings, as well as getting deep into some of the more ambient stuff that we listen to, like Steve Roach. I don't know if you're familiar with him at all, and Tangerine Dream and all that. And
did you say Tangerine Dream just now?
Yeah.
Oh, God bless you, sir. See, they did the greatest soundtrack of all time in Thief. Thief is the best soundtrack ever recorded.
Okay.
Oh, that's Michael Mann's first film with James Caan, 1980.
Oh, okay.
And Tangerine
Risky
Dream
Business, right?
Oh my God, yeah, but that's a great one. But
yeah, and Legend is fantastic.
Yeah. Tangerine Dream, yes.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, all these 80s references, because to me, this felt a little 80s or a little like washy. Like we had a lot of verb on everything, like a lot of like vocal delays and things to really make it kind of like, Miami Vice, like back in the day, watching that show, like just the big, the big verby, synthy patches. And
yes,
I think we really took our time too. Like there are parts of songs that really extend and they're very ambient and they go on. Whereas I think in Brave, we probably would have cut it and gotten to business a little quicker.
Right.
But there's much more breathing room in this album where, there's tones ringing out everywhere. Or
added a polyrhythm into it or something.
Right.
But see, this is so interesting. I mean, so basically your core audience is fat 55-year-old men.
Oh, perfect. That's what we wrote down.
Yeah. People from the 80s or who identify with like Genesis or like those 80s bands that were just so big.
Yeah.
I love that sound.
Depeche Mode.
Yeah.
Even.
I was going to say, especially like Black Celebration era Depeche Mode, not the later pop stuff, but the earlier.
Yeah, exactly. Cure, all
yes,
that.
Kiss me, kiss me, kiss me.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Oh my God, this makes me so happy right now. I don't need to say anything else. This is so great. Okay, so because the music is so good, how hard is it to sit on this through this whole COVID thing? I mean, how recently did you write this material? I mean, has it been parked for a while? Because a lot of bands have, did stuff in 2019 and we're just seeing it now.
I'm trying to think.
It's kind of what happened. Like we started really writing, developing probably late 2019, early 2020. I think the last time Matt we got together was
like
just
February
before,
2020, right?
Or even March maybe, because I think our vacation was just canceled and we were together then. And we kind of sat on it for a while. I know me myself, I was obsessed with watching the news and worrying about everything, and I couldn't focus on writing. Like I had no free mental space to write and create. But after a point, it did, and we all came together. And actually, Trevor had recorded the drums way back, so he was like done.
Yeah.
But we started adding the layers probably late 2020, and then really bringing it together in 21.
And it was also it was at that point too where we were like, we didn't rehearse, we didn't get together for a year plus, and we're like, we got to do something. So, I upgraded the equipment on my end and, just to make sure that I was able to track on my side to send file. So everything was done remotely. So,
yeah. But nowadays you can, right? I mean,
right.
Just even 10 years ago, we could say like we could send tracks around, but it always sounded like 5 different people doing 5 different, right? Everything from room noise, right? It was like you couldn't get the disparate nature of each track out. And nowadays, everything sounds cohesive. I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with 12 Foot Ninja, but that band, they're Australian, and they literally, I mean, we're talking like one guy's in Korea and the other guy's, I mean, and I never knew. So when I heard the record, I was just floored that this wasn't recorded in one room all together, because it sounds so live and immediate. And that's how your record sounds. It feels immediate. It feels like it's a live recording of the band. And I can imagine you all swaying with your eyes closed. It's just super intense.
I have a feeling if we didn't know each other so well, and if we hadn't played together for so long, it would be that kind of separation that you'd hear. But I think at this point, like, we've been together 15, 20 years, playing together live, multiple albums, and you just kind of have that sync, that synergy that I really think we did capture it, emailing files back and forth constantly. Yeah.
Nice. So you've been together since you were since you were 5? I blew my own track. Crap.
Apologies.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this sucks. I'm an idiot. Okay. So what I've noticed a lot of times nowadays is, back in, say, the 90s, there was a common thing where bands were putting together, hidden tracks on the ends of cassettes. Right? They were filled. I
love those.
Right?
It was like finding a treasure. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, are there any hidden, I don't want to say hidden tracks, because I mean, I have the track list, right? I have the tracks. It is what it is. But are there hidden moments? Are there secrets, or are there any cool melodic transitions that you were like, that's the one,
I think, there's one song that didn't make the album, and it's a great song, and it's going to come back in another project. Probably it's going to be revamped a little, but I think even after we had finished recording everything, like the instrumental songs that we have, I didn't fully understand how they connected to everything until we had like the almost final mixes of everything that we can play them, back to back. I think those, for me, hearing it all together, because this is an album probably best listened to top to bottom.
It's a long player, a true long player.
It is, and there's a flow of the songs and the lyrics, and we have the 3 instrumental songs that have that atmospheric kind of glue that holds, that connects the songs. Yep. So for me, that was a surprise to hear. I was like, oh, this really does sound cool.
Yeah. Well, I like to think I'm right. But I mean, I tend not to have people on the show I don't like. There's something about it that I really want to hear. And your stuff is just so, I know I'm praising you a lot, but it was so immensely inspirational. And I think, going back to what you said earlier about the sound of the 80s, or whether it's the Depeche Mode stuff or the Tangerine Dream stuff, or the themes from, say, that are almost right. It's a very cinematic record. It sounds like the soundtrack. Yeah. It should be actually a soundtrack. I hope you get soundtrack work from it. I don't necessarily have a question about this, but I think that's why it's so easy to be praiseworthy, because it captures a demo. I mean, like it's so made for me. I'm not saying I'm the only demo, but man, it's so made for me.
That's good. I'm going to make a note. Our marketing area is
55-year-old Pacific Northwest.
40 to 50s.
Yeah. Failed, not famous drummer who.
It's actually really reassuring that you're able to pick up on all the sort of like inspirations and like the intent of this, like being truly like a soundtrack, so that's great.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I mean, I'm glad. I don't mean to congratulate myself, but the beauty of this kind of work is if you actually choose to listen. And that's the problem. I'm going to go down this road for a second. I'm going to argue. I'm going to be angry for a moment. But ever since Fight Club, this whole idea of bite-size anything, that's our world. We live in a bite-size world. Right. Bite-sized, you get the 20-second Instagram posts and the YouTube purposely sets their algorithm to be less than 10 minutes. And I'm like, well, I'm screwed because I want real in-depth. I want to go on a journey in conversation with you, or as I'm listening to something. I don't want a single. I want an album, and the more conceptual, the better.
Right.
And And so to listeners of my style of music, whether it's Pink Floyd,
Right.
or I mean, and look, am I saying it's Pink Floyd? No, but
Right.
it's in that vein, and that vein has been missing.
Right.
There's nothing. There's nobody doing it.
And I wonder if it kind of ends like with our generation, because we all grew up on that album-oriented rock. Like, will that continue in some way? I don't think it's a thing in modern music today.
I don't think it's a thing,
right.
but the thing Michelle, is it's such great stuff that when people actually take the moment, and there's always somebody, right? There's always somebody that saves the way things were, right? Mm-hmm. What's his name? The singer, the swing singer who took the all the old Frank Sinatra stuff. Oh my God. Everybody's listening right now and yelling at their phone. Luck be a lady tonight. You know what I mean?
He's doing like Michael Bublé?
Yeah, Michael Bublé. Thank you. Okay. So there's always somebody that grows up, and their parents, they're listening to this, and that's what they fall in love with, mm-hmm. and they reignite that fire,
mm-hmm. right?
And in his case, he's extraordinarily talented and super charismatic. So who wouldn't want to hang out with that guy?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So he keeps that music, and I think it takes you. I think it takes Psalm. There's a few bands that are out there doing this kind of thing right now. And it's the best stuff in the world because it's so rare.
The thing I'll add too is that to do like a full album like this, it was a lot of work, right? So mm-hmm. it's you can write a song like in a weekend, record it, put it out, and move on your way. But I think, it's something to where it's tough to get motivated. We're only just putting it out now. It's not even out yet, but just it takes a lot of energy going in on the front end. Like if we're doing another 8 to 10 song album, you just got to put in a lot of work, and it's worth it in the end when people enjoyed it and all that. But mm-hmm. it's a lot of work too.
Yeah. It's so. I know I'm going to keep going. I'm telling you, I'm going to keep going. It's so praiseworthy. It really is actually an extraordinary piece of work, and that might even make you uncomfortable for me to praise it to that level. But I think it's because I recognize so many pieces in it, and it's probably my own yearning and searching, right? Like I look at the world today and I say, look, we've got wars. We've always had wars, mm-hmm. but my age, the age I'm at, and I have a number of children, and I have actually a couple of grandchildren. And I think, was it right of us to have children in a world that we are unable to stop some maniac from willfully killing others strictly for power or money or right? And I get it. That's the age-old argument, but then there's that, and then there's like the societal stuff. There's the arguments over COVID and the idea that you're not a patriot if you wear a mask, which is fucking insane. And I'm a Christian, and I just said fuck you and your fucking motherfuckers who say we can't. I'm not a patriot if I fucking wear a fucking mask. It's bullshit. So. Excuse me.
Tell us how you really feel about it.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, is this going to be edited or is this going to be in there?
No. This is if you guys want to start swearing, now's the time. But there's the societal stuff, right? There's these culture shifts. There's the literal decay in the world, and this, like in the movie Interstellar, there's this need. Mm-hmm. We're going to eventually have to do something radical because nobody's willing to do the hard things now, or we're going to die.
Right. Exactly.
And then of course, then there's the spiritual aspects. Are we seeking God? What is God to me compared to what is God to you? And why are we fighting over that? Why can't we talk about love? What's love, and how do we shift? Right. And that to me is the breadth and the width of this whole silly thing, this album. it asks all those questions all at the same time in every song. That is so freaking badass. It's not supposed to be like that. And I'm jealous because I wish I wrote it.
Wow.
I want to be the drummer in your band. I don't want your drummer to die or anything like that. But you know,
Right.
You'd probably like to offload some of the mixing duties if you can mix.
Yes. And
But you know what, Rob, too? I think everything you were just saying is all true. But like the album as well, there are parts that are calming. There are parts that are more serene and even beautiful. Like some of the melodies and the harmonies that come together.
Yeah.
I think you have some big, heavy stuff that you're dealing with, but you also have these layers to kind of help you through them, is how I kind of see it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's kind of a question at the very end, you know, the awaken to the beyond, that maybe a little bit of hope. I don't know. Or are we doomed to repeat ourselves no matter what happens?
But do you see? I have to ask this question because I have hope. As much as I'm arguing, as much as I'm yelling, as much as the fool I'm making of myself, the fact is, Matt, I do have hope. And I'm not going to get all Jesus-y on you and churchy on you, but I mean, I'm just saying, but I have hope. And that's why I get up every morning, right? Because I mean, I want to wake up, and I'm curious, how do each of you feel about that? You know, I mean, regardless of what's going on in the world, I have friends getting shelled in Ukraine every night and barely making it out. They live in Kyiv.
That's devastating. It's absolutely devastating.
And if they die, I don't know what I'll think, how I'll feel, if I want to just go over there and kill everyone myself. You know what I mean? You know? So how do you wake up in the morning? Do you wake up with hope? You know, what do you do?
I mean, for me, like I wake up every day, you know, thankful, hopeful that whatever we're doing is going to contribute to society, you know, moving forward in a productive way into the future. It's just, there's so many factors, whether it's, you know, climate change or what we're dealing with now, that continue to try to, you know, not have that happen. But I think, you know, not having that hope, just that's pretty bleak. So
yeah. Well, yeah. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Michelle.
I don't know what I was going to say. But
I totally blew it. I blew it.
No, I think, I mean, yeah, you have to be hopeful and you have to be grateful. And if anything, seeing what's happening in the world, it makes you appreciate even more what we have here, like our families. We have a house. We have no global fear of people invading right now at this moment. I don't know. There's a big, scary world out there for sure. But I think if you can have some little positive impact to somebody at some point in your day, that's what helps me. Yeah.
To me, I think the biggest frustration in the world right now, I mean, for me, the thing that I'm noticing constantly is that we've politicized care. We argue about caring.
We politicized empathy.
Right. That's a better way to put it. Yes, thank you. We've politicized empathy. We've made it weak to care about somebody who's sick or hurt. Or honestly, I don't care if somebody's even pathetic. If that's if somebody's just like, my life is hard and I want you to help me. That person actually needs help.
Right.
You know what I mean? And the thing is okay, maybe that's not me. Maybe I look at that guy and say, I don't know if I have the courage or the strength to care about that, right? You know, but why do we have to politicize it? Why do we have to make it like, oh, you're a pansy if you think that way, right? Or right? Or you know, it's all I care about is our economy. I mean, this whole gas thing is crazy. I can't believe I have to spend $1 more a gallon. I'm like, you know what I mean? And I'm talking to half of my family in this, right? Like, I just don't understand why it's so hard to just shut the fuck up sometimes and to do the right thing for people.
It's frustrating, and you want to tell that to people, and
I do.
Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you just go about your day. But
you sometimes tell them, and it goes in one ear and out the other, and it's just, there's another reason to be not quite as hopeful, but like people just aren't willing to either engage or think outside of their, you know, their echo chamber of what, you know, so it's, that's another frustrating thing about, our current time. But I got to think that it's probably something that's been around. It's not like we're in a totally unique period where there's been idiots. It's just now there's always been morons. I'm just wondering if they have bigger megaphones to.
They do. Yeah.
So.
They get to agree with the other million other idiots.
Right.
They have, because everybody's empowered by, right? It's the group dynamic. You put one weak guy in a room, and that one guy hates that weak guy, and he beats him up, and everybody cheers on the powerful guy. It's just how it is. It's sad, and it's lame about human existence that we gang up, we get tribal, and I don't know, man. Maybe I'm not weak. I will go down with the ship. You know what I mean? but I just don't understand that. So I'm sorry for taking off on a tangent, but I think the album is important because it's the kind of music where if people would just sit down, take 45 minutes out of your day, just sit down and be quiet, put your headphones on, sit in a dark room with a glass of Chardonnay, and just thrill to what's happening, you might wake up feeling way better. You might feel hope, because that's the beauty. It's dissonant, but there's hope in all of it.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's heavy stuff, but again, you'll find little glimmers of hope throughout.
Yeah. It's M83 without the dance moves.
I think that's good. Yeah.
No, I love M83, but I just I just don't need the you know what I mean? I want the flowy stuff. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly.
Okay, so I have a couple more questions for you, and I promise I'll let you go. And you're going to be like, "That was the freaking weirdest interview I've ever had in my life." But I mentioned the idea of the songs have a spiritual nature to them. And whether you see it that way, that's how I define it, right? But there's I call it a calling and an awakening. Like the songs they're making a statement, and if you absorb them, you start actually agreeing with that statement. I don't know how else to explain it, but that's what happens to me. And I know we just talked about this, but I want to define it specifically. What are your feelings about the nature of mankind?
I think the way it's framed out in the album is that, we are, it's bleak at the beginning. We're destined to destroy ourselves. And a subset of us, are willing to escape and to try something new, to evolve. And hopefully, it doesn't necessarily get to that point, but, I am hopeful that we continue to move down a path where we are able to evolve, even if we're not able to necessarily stop ourselves from killing ourselves, destroying ourselves, and that we do get to a new way of thinking. And it's probably going to take some time. And I think, like what I mentioned before, is that is it just human nature to repeat that cycle? That there's it's inevitable that we have to destroy ourselves.
It is.
But
if we get 3 generations away, we forget everything that happened.
Right.
The thing, because there's something about the 3 generation thing. Like, for example, your lives right now, you exist, you have purpose, it's important. You're important to the world. You may not feel like it as an artist, because that's, again, we're weird that way. But like, you guys matter. You don't just matter to me. You don't just matter to your fans. You don't just matter to your families. You actually matter in the grand scheme, in the fabric of humanity right now. Now, what we all covet as musicians is, can we echo 300 years from now? Can we be like Mozart? Right? And most of us, the answer is no, because in 3 generations, we're dead, and our great-great-grandchildren don't even know what Grandma and Grandpa sounded like. The beauty of this podcast, or this video, is this interview, is somebody someday gets to experience this who doesn't know us. They're not invested in us in any way. Through what medium, I have no idea, but it will exist because it's digital. It exists now. You know what I mean? So is this all sci-fi and potential, or does our life have long-standing purpose? You know, what do you think?
That's a deep question. But yeah, no, I mean, I've thought about that too. Like long after we're gone, we have, recordings in place out there. Who will hear them? What will our stories now tell them about, how things were at this time, or do they understand what we're talking about? Or it's interesting because it is out there, and how long is it out there for? Like generations to come, will they hear it? Maybe, maybe not, but just to have that little monument, if you will, at this point in time there with your writing on it is I think it's kind of cool.
And given that, it was, recorded and sort of, finalized over the course of the pandemic and all, it'll be interesting to see, down the road if people stumble upon it, that if they can get some sort of peer into like the whole era, the time frame, not only from the standpoint of like how we tried to merge in a variety of styles into the music itself, but just it's sort of a reflection of our reality as it stands today. So that's a little hyperbolic, but hopefully that there's
that's what the show's all about, hyperbole.
So hopefully, it's if we have like our collective legacy of all our music, hopefully this is amongst the things that people come back to and listen to and can relate to it in some way.
Yeah. I think because it doesn't, I'm sorry for having such an opinion today, but I think because it doesn't actually reflect the time. I think that's what makes your music so good, is it doesn't reflect the time. It reflects a day gone past. It reflects an idealized soundscape. It reflects a hope of a time that doesn't exist and may never exist again, as Michelle said. And because I don't think humans evolve, and I'm not, again, this is not a religious thing. I don't think we do, because it wasn't even 100 years ago that we went through what we're going through right now, where we're subjugating an entire group of people simply for their land or beliefs or whatever. And again, the world stands around because the world is so chicken shit, and it doesn't want its economy harmed, and it doesn't want to look like an aggressor that it won't defend. And I just don't think, I think, I don't want to say we're doomed, but I do think that it takes an act of God to alter the landscape. And I don't know if that's coming soon, but, and again, I'm not going to go down that road, but I think what makes it all possible is as long as we have the type of material that you've created, the type of thoughtful and introspective musics and creative pieces, art pieces and ideas and inventions that serve humanity, and maybe a group of nations that stand behind one nation for a common goal to do good versus worry about gas prices, is maybe we're onto something here, man.
Right. Hopefully.
Yeah. Okay. So I have to ask you one more question, and I appreciate you guys so much because you put up with me so well. But one question I always like to ask artists is I call it the overcoming question, which is, what do you feel you've had to overcome in your life to become who you are, to become the artist you've become? And do you feel like there's still overcoming to do to become the artist you want to be?
I'll say for me, for sure, the whole kind of backstory for me anyway behind brave is having to be brave and put yourself out there. I am 100% introvert. Like, I don't like really talking. I don't like people to know what I'm thinking about. Like, I like my own little place and I can do what I want. But just overcoming that and putting stuff out there it's scary, right? Because you put stuff out, like, oh, what if people hate it? Or what if just everyone thinks it's terrible and I've spent so much time working on this? And not that it's for other people. I mean, I think we as artists feel very satisfied with the product that we've put out. But, there's risk. You're putting yourself out there to potentially be humiliated or potentially not. So just kind of trying to be brave, trying to care less really about what other people think and just do what you feel like you need to do is kind of my ongoing life where I try to, just kind of put it out there and don't worry about it.
Yeah, that's lovely.
Yeah, that's hilarious. I think I'm an introvert as well too, and just when showing everyone in the band the material, I had just the intention of like, this is something for me. I've got the demo tracks. I like listening to it. Who cares if anyone else listens to it? I don't want to put it out there like Michelle was saying and have someone not like it or what have you. So just you sort of mustering the courage to put in the time to put it out there, I think is something that just gotta be more brave or just go for it. Understanding that others could like it, and if they don't, who cares? You're doing what you like. Put it out there for the 3 people that may like it. It will hopefully bring enjoyment to their lives as well too.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. Well, that's a perfect way to end. So, look, I love this experience today. I am so grateful to you both for taking the time and help us deal through some of the technical snafus in the beginning and weathering my diatribes. But you guys have created something incredibly lovely. I know Dave Departure, the album comes out on the 25th. I knew it was something 5. Okay. The 25th of March. 2022. Yep. So if you're listening to this a year from now, it's already out. You should go buy it. And where will it be available? Please let us know.
Yeah. I'll start, Michelle, if I forget anything.
I'll be your editor.
Yeah, exactly. March 25th, it'll be available on all streaming platforms. We're not going to put out the album in any sort of physical medium just yet. Okay. So for the most part, if you want to go and buy the album, if you go to our Bandcamp page, I should have the Bandcamp memorized. It's Day of Departure at Bandcamp. You can actually go. You can actually go now to pre-order the album. Yeah, excellent. Pre-order the album now for a discount prior to the 25th.
Awesome. Michelle, any final thoughts?
Just thank you so much. It's been great chatting with you, and I appreciate so much that you really took the time to listen and make all these comparisons and really felt what we were trying to put out. That's ultimately our best wish, best case scenario. As artists putting music out there is to affect somebody in some way. So we're very appreciative that you listened and took the time to talk to us.